Notice is hereby given of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield in the County of Union, New Jersey at 7:30 p.m. on the evening of Tuesday, March 5th, 2013, in the boardroom of the Administration Building, 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey. The purpose of the meeting is to conduct such business as shall properly come before the meeting. This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Friday, March 1, 2013, caused to be posted in the office of the Board of Education located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star Ledger, the Westfield Library, the Town Clerk of Westfield, the Alternative Press, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of this meeting. We do a roll call?
Rich Matesic,
Here.
Lucy Biegler, Ann Carey, Mark Friedman,
Here.
Brendan Galligan,
Here.
Roseanne Kirsted,
Here.
Ginny Lights,
Here.
Gretchen Olig, here, Mitch Slater.
Here. All right. Roseanne, could you lead us in flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's start with announcements. Brendan, anything down your end?
Brendan has one now.
I have one now. This is from Fine Arts. The Westfield Public Schools are celebrating the nationally acclaimed Youth Art Month with colorful and creative displays throughout the downtown area. Paintings, drawings, sculpture, and painted furniture designed by approximately 300 students from Westfield's 10 public schools are displayed by 40 downtown merchants, as well as the Westfield Memorial Library and RMC Studios in Garwood, who volunteered for their windows display space for the month of March. Second announcement, the public is invited to the school musical scheduled for this month. At Roosevelt Intermediate School on March 8th and 9th, Seussical, the musical, will be performed at 7:30 and on March 10th at 2 p.m. At Westfield High School, the musical Bat Boy will be performed March 14th, 15th, and 16th in the Westfield High School Auditorium at 7:30.
I have an announcement from the Special Education Parent Committee, who will once again be hosting the Awareness Expo at Edison Intermediate School from 7 to 10 on Wednesday, March 21st. Details on the list of presenters will soon be available on the PTC Special Ed website and will be announced in the local media.
This is from Lincoln School. The Westfield Public School District is now accepting applications for the preschool program for the 2013-2014 school year. Located at Lincoln School's Early Childhood Learning Center, the integrated program, which uses the creative curriculum for preschool, is comprised of general education students and students who have been found eligible for special education. General education students will be selected for this program by lottery. Preschool classes will meet Monday through Friday from 8:45 to 11:15 a.m. for the 3-year-old morning session and from 12:30 to 3 p.m. for the 4-year-old afternoon session. Applicants must be residents of Westfield and 3 or 4 years of age before October 1st, 2013. Applications for the lottery are available on the Lincoln School's website at www.westfieldnjk12.org/Lincoln. During school hours, applications may also be obtained in person at Lincoln School, the Office of Special Education Services, and the main office of any of the elementary schools in Westfield. All applications must be returned to Lincoln School no later than 4 p.m. on March 20th, 2013. The lottery drawing will be held at Lincoln School, 728 Westfield Avenue, on March 21st, 2013, at 2 p.m. Parents of applicants are welcome to attend but need not be present at the drawing. All applicants will be notified of their acceptance status by phone and mail. All children currently registered in our 3-year-old program do not need to take part in the lottery. They will automatically be admitted with an updated application form. Children who are not selected for the program will be placed on a waiting list. Special education students are included in the preschool program as determined by the District Child Study Team. Please check Lincoln's website for the tuition fee and other details or call Lincoln School at 908-789-4455.
Thank you.
STEM Day. STEM Day was held on February 28th with an array of activities as well as guest speakers. Here are just a few examples. Franklin School tackled oil spill containment. Roosevelt Intermediate's eighth grade students worked as one whole class unit to use security science in various contexts. Edison Intermediate School designed life-saving flotation devices. At Westfield High School, students worked on mousetrap-powered cars, soda bottle bioreactors, roller coaster physics, bridge dynamics, and many other applied science activities. In addition to design activities, guest speakers from university and corporate backgrounds presented on cryogenics, medical practice, and the discovery of the Higgs boson particle. The STEM committee will meet in 2 weeks to debrief on the day's activities and to discuss moving the district from awareness to ongoing integrated implementation.
Mitch? Jane?
Sure. This is about the Rotary Club Philhauer Award. The Rotary Club of Westfield is announcing the 21st Annual Charles Philhauer Fellowship Award. This fellowship is awarded to a Westfield elementary school teacher at a Rotary luncheon on May 7th of this year. The Board of Education will also make its award the same evening, May 7th. Letters of nomination are now invited from interested citizens and staff members. There is criteria for the fellowship, and the nomination should specify ways in which the teacher has demonstrated these 3 traits: outstanding teaching, interest in children, and continued pursuit of professional growth. The eligibility includes being a full-time teacher in grades kindergarten through 5th grade and having been in Westfield for a minimum of 5 years. These letters of nomination should be sent to Charles Philhauer Fellowship Committee of the Rotary Club of Westfield, and they actually come right here to 302 Elm Street to the Office of the Superintendent of Schools. A nomination letter may also be emailed to rotaryphilhauer@westfieldnjk12.org. The deadline for the nominations is Monday, April 1st, 2013. And I'm sure this information is also on the district website.
This is from the high school. On February 27th, the Westfield High School PTSO held an informative parent meeting to discuss the responsibilities and possible liabilities and consequences of unintentionally or intentionally hosting underage drinking in one's home. PTSO co-president Ingrid McKinley provided a fact-filled PowerPoint that set the framework for the evening's discussion. Prepared questions by PTSO board members, as well as open questions from the parents in the audience, were addressed by a panel of 7 experts that night, including Peter Renwick, principal, Sandy Mamery, the athletic director, Maureen Mazaris, our coordinator of counseling, K through 12, Westfield Police Chief David Wayman, Lieutenant John Resurka of the Juvenile Bureau of the Westfield Police Department, Tony Prieto, who is our town prosecutor, and Dan Sloan, who is a personal injury and criminal defense attorney. In addition to discussions on laws and school regulations that evening, there was information on insurance liabilities, and all of the information was provided on a PowerPoint. We've put that PowerPoint on our website, and I would strongly suggest, if you get a chance, you get the opportunity, take a look at it. There's just some critical information there. You can scroll right down on the PTSO website as well. I also want to thank Ingrid McKinley, who is the PTSO president at the high school. She did a lot of hard work along with our Lori Korecki in putting the event together, and a number of us from the board were there, and it was really well done. And I understand they'll be doing a number of other events along these lines, and I think programs like these are really, really important, and I really commend the high school PTSO for getting this done. It was a great program.
And I'm very happy this evening to make an announcement that one of our teachers is receiving national recognition. And in fact, the National School Boards Association has named Janine Gotko one of the 22 watch leaders in advancing education technology. Janine is this year is a master technology teacher for kindergarten through 5th grade here in the Westfield Public Schools. Ms. Gotko is one of only 20 education leaders from across the country being recognized for her ability to inspire colleagues and to incorporate innovative technology solutions that contribute to high-quality learning environments and more efficient school district operations. In selecting Ms. Gotko for the honor, the National School Board Association stated, "The 21st century learning environments thrive at Westfield's elementary schools as Janine Gotko supports teachers in and out of their classes in professional development sessions and through her online resource blog as part of a $1.2 million technology initiative. By ensuring technology was effectively incorporated into the district's other grant on literacy, her work serves as a model for others." The National School Boards Association also explains that the 22 Watch honorees offer school board members and other leaders real-world stories that help them evaluate the intersection of policy and practice when it comes to today's emerging technologies. Along with this honor will be an opportunity for Ms. Gotko to attend the Consortium for School Networking Leadership Conference in San Diego, where she will share innovative ideas with educators from around the country. Ms. Gotko has a long history in Westfield. She actually was a Westfield High School graduate and has been a teacher in our district since 1998. We're proud of her accomplishments, and we believe she serves as a role model, and we applaud her enthusiasm for teaching and her dedication to preparing our children for the 21st century.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have two announcements. The first, the next Board of Education meeting will be held on Tuesday, March 19th, and on Thursday, March 21st. The March 21st date will be the public hearing on the 2013-2014 school budget. For my second announcement, I'd just like to take the podium. Okay. Tonight, we honor someone who literally has risen high in the ranks of champions. Westfield High School senior, Peter Fagan. Peter, would you please come to the podium? Last spring, Peter won the Union County Pole Vaulting Championship and the Watchung Division of the Union County Conference. He finished second at the sectional championship and second at the Group 4 state championship. This winter, he won the Group 4 state championship by completing a 15-foot pole vault performance, which tied the meet record. Peter had also captured the sectional pole vaulting championship, and he finished third at the state meet of champions. As if those accolades were not enough, Peter then placed second at the Eastern States Championships last Monday and will compete at the New Balance Indoor Nationals on Saturday in New York City. Peter is not only a great individual athlete, he is also a team captain for the spring season. On behalf of the Westfield Board of Education, please accept our congratulations and this certificate of achievement. Congratulations. Chris, would you like to say a few words? Great.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to recognize Peter, and thank you also for your continued support of our program. As you know, we have this year we have 155 boys out for spring track, and we have about as many girls. And I think if you came by the track one afternoon, especially now, it literally is a circus with lacrosse on the field and two track teams. And there are a lot of kids out there. There are a lot of kids involved in our athletic programs, and if you speak to any of them, they can tell you the positive impact that athletics makes in their life. So thank you for the support of the program. But Peter is everything that exemplifies what a Blue Devil athlete ought to be. He's consistent. in the classroom. He's consistent on the field. He's an excellent leader. In fact, in other news, since the wrestling team is doing so well in the springtime, we, for now, are without a pole vault coach since Don McDonald, who coaches the wrestling team, is still with the wrestling team. And so Peter has taken the young vaulters under his wing. And, we've gotten a little Fagin bump from because our numbers in the pole vault are up. And word gets around. When you have a kid like that, a couple of years ago, we had a 7-foot high jumper, and all of a sudden we had all these new kids come out for the track team. And, that's, the long reach of seniors and leaders like him is that these kids who are freshmen who are coming out, exploring the event for the first time, 3 years from now, they will be seniors, and, who knows what they'll be doing because, they said, this guy did it, and so maybe I can do it too. And that's a great thing, and it's one of the things that sustains our program. So congratulations, Peter. We're proud of you.
Peter, you don't have to sit through the meeting.
Yes, you can leap right out of here. Won't be offended.
Congratulations again.
All right. With that, I would recognize the public for agenda items only. Seeing no one come to the podium, we'll move to the superintendent reports.
Great, and this evening we do have two superintendent reports. Previously, we have had reports. Certainly, one of our important offices in the district is our guidance office, and we've had reports in the past. And we at that point had said that we wanted to hear how things were progressing as we move forward. So tonight we have Maureen Mazaris here to give us updates on how the guidance office is doing. Maureen.
Good evening, everybody, and it's really hard to follow somebody that can jump that high. It's slightly intimidating. As is often the case, it's hard sometimes to compete with the quality of the students, and I have to say also with the coaching. Chris is extraordinary. I'd like to thank you again for the opportunity to be here. It was just about a year ago. It was on a slightly colder January night that I had the opportunity to speak to you as the coordinator of counseling. And at that point, I was asked to speak a little bit about our mission, our vision, our goals, and our strategies. I still have a copy of that if you want to check up on my progress. But tonight I thought I would take the time to really boast a little bit about how well counseling is going K through 12, and also to give you an idea about how those goals continue and how the utilization of our resources in the counseling department are being reallocated in ways that will continue the kind of growth that we're hoping for and working toward. Counseling is in place in Westfield K through 12. It's in place in Westfield based on a developmental model of counseling that is age appropriate, that is needs-based, and most importantly, forward-thinking. One of the things that I've enjoyed most in this past year and a half is the opportunity to meet with elementary school counselors and see the magic that they do with little kids in little spaces. Elementary school counselors are everywhere in their buildings. They work with students individually, in groups. They run groups that are needs-based. They run a class because a teacher asks them to address a particular topic. They serve as integral members of the INRS committee, a process in this district that is growing and developing in really important and effective ways. They are anti-bullying specialists, they chair school safety committees, they meet with parents, they meet with principals, they meet with teachers. They make a very important contribution to school climate, something that I think is on all of our minds as we try K through 12, not in this school only, but in all schools, to develop that kind of school where kids are safe and protected so that they can grow and spend their time learning and playing and growing up. They're very good and very effective at finding those outside resources that kids and families need. At a time when resources are shrinking, they do their best to find those that are affordable and quality for the students and the families they work with. Elementary school counselors work hard in ways that are hard for middle school or high school counselors to understand. But I do believe, as I watch them, that they provide the very earliest of interventions so that problems can be addressed soon and quickly and efficiently. I have met with so many high school students who still talk with such affection and such gratitude for their elementary school counselor. The middle school is not different. The middle school counseling model is a little bit different. I think middle school counseling programs, and ours in particular, are prime examples of team-based work and of collective thinking in a way that really makes middle school counselors very much driving forces in those kind of school-wide initiatives that continue the work of identifying student needs, working with schools individually, but also providing those kinds of programs that raise kids in their awareness of character, community, service, and all those things that make school bigger than the classroom. They do the very same things. They do individual counseling. They do peer leadership. The peer leadership program at Edison this year has been redesigned. It's called Teens Learning Respect and Compassion, with a big focus on anti-bullying. Roosevelt counselors promoted Rachel's Challenge, where kids began to understand, based on the example of one of the first victims of Columbine, the importance of kindness and the contagion of kindness. Both schools take on National Mix It Up Day with the purpose of enforcing kids to make new friends or at least eat lunch with someone they didn't know. All of this, though, happens under the big umbrella of also serious and important academic counseling with a lot of attention to course selection, with a lot of attention to what's going on in the classroom, how students are achieving academically. Their programs are alive, they're a lively bunch. And their enthusiasm seems completely and absolutely appropriate to the students that they work with. They also seek professional development. And they seek professional development in every way possible to them. We all seek out those free conferences, and we all seek out that free literature. We also seek to learn from each other, and we seek to provide professional development that crosses the grades. At the high school, the focus expands to include, as you well know, much planning for college preparation by choosing wisely from the curriculum, and college admissions, doing those things that beginning in 9th grade get you where you need or want to be, with an understanding that that differs for every one of the 1,860-something children that live in Westfield High School. There is no one formula for college. As promised, we tried to do things, and we have done things this year to make the application process more efficient. Last year, we talked, when we were together, about using Naviance for all that it can do for us, and we have made great progress in that. This year, we did roll out Naviance eDocs, the electronic transmission of all of that information that goes to college. We prepared ourselves. We had support, professional support training from Naviance. We sat in webinars. We continue to sit in webinars. I did one yesterday. We did site visits to schools that do those things, and we asked them the classic questions. What didn't work? Because they didn't want to make their mistake, our mistake. And what suggestions do you have for us to make this go smoothly? We had our own professional learning community, PLC, that enabled us to see how Naviance could improve student achievement by using it for college counseling, career counseling, and academic selection. We prepared our seniors for the process with classroom presentations, common application workshops, email blasts. We prepared our parents with an earlier than usual senior parent night. We made everything accessible to the parents via Naviance and the website. Parents don't have to fill out a brag sheet by hand anymore. They can do it on the train on the way to work. We prepared our teachers to submit recommendations through eDocs with a presentation at a faculty meeting, followed by an email with detailed instructions for submission. But we know that the process is new. So we were and we continue to be available for any person, any student, any parent, any teacher who can't figure out which button to push. Want to note especially the very exemplary efforts of the counselors around the time of Sandy. You can imagine the little bit of panic that you feel when you're rolling out e-docs for the first time and the storm of the century is coming with the promise of technical difficulties. We listened carefully, and counselors, all of the counselors at the high school, worked day and night in the days preceding the storm to prepare and upload transcripts, school profiles, college forms, and individual letters of recommendation. Unlike many schools, our students' information was submitted to colleges all over the country on time, submitted and downloaded. I thought that was pretty significant. We also have used Naviance to increase our access to students to get to know them in different ways. We continue to use the career exploration package in the 10th grade to begin to help students attach school to dreams, attach schools to careers, to help them understand that the careers, the 10 or 12 careers that they know about, are just a small sample of what careers are out there for them. STEM is really piquing their interest, all those careers around STEM. We are using it for the Success Planner and for the Resume Builder. But one of the most interesting benefits of all of this is that the time, the actual time, counselors did not have to spend on printing and Xeroxing and typing and downloading and stuffing and licking and stamping, allowed counselors to meet sooner and more frequently with every ninth grader, to meet sooner and more frequently with every senior, so that even the two new counselors in my building, in the high school, had the opportunity to have not one, but sometimes 2 and 3 meetings with those students who they were first getting to know, so that they all felt comfortable and confident in writing about them. Some of that was the benefit of time saved through the benefit and the rewards of technology. We've also spent a good deal of our time and effort in this year in really looking at the ways we network with colleges, because we know that that's important to our community. This year, 2 of us, Andy Buckner and me, attended the National Association of College Admissions Counselors, where we strategized our time so carefully that we went to each of those sessions and seminars that we felt were most pertinent to our school community, particularly those that talked about selectivity, that talked about essays, that talked about the ins and outs of interviews, those kinds of things that we felt we needed to be up to date and current about. We also took full advantage of every vendor there and their giveaways. Andy loves the giveaways. And we also took full advantage of their college fair, where we could meet and greet representatives from over 300 colleges, particularly those colleges that we don't get to know very well, those colleges who don't come to college fairs in New Jersey because it's too costly, colleges in Tennessee and Indiana and Arizona, and states that I think we often forget are part of the United States of America. We also have participated, I've gone to the New Jersey College Admissions Counselors meetings and fairs, where we were able to hear from an admissions officer from an Ivy League college, a community college, and what we would call a safety school for so many of our children, to understand that there is something there for every single student. Counselors have attended or are planning to attend college tours. College tours are wonderful opportunities for our counselors because you get to go to the school. You get to eat in the cafeteria, you get to meet the teachers, you get to sit in classes, you get to hear about what's special and unique. This year, counselors have gone on the Boston tour, the South Carolina tour, the Vermont tour, a Florida fly-in, that was really interesting, a New Hampshire college tour, the Maryland Crab Crawl, the United States Marine Corps, and ROTC orientation. Individual counselors have visited individual schools in states including California, Colorado, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, West Virginia, Massachusetts, Maine, the list goes on and on and on. A lot of the counselors will, on their vacation, if their own personal time, if they are near a school, take the time out to visit. I've done that, and it's really interesting. My husband doesn't love it, but I do things that I don't love, so it kind of goes that way. Today, at the end of this year, we will have made personal visits to 65 colleges so far. And then each counselor that returns from one of those college visits presents at our staff meeting and tells us what it is we need to know about that college and shares with each of us the contact person that they met. On college night, even on the heels of Sandy, where several other schools had to cancel their college night, which is really unfortunate, we had some unavoidable cancellations caused by travel plans, but we still had 176 colleges attend. That's a phenomenal number. In their evaluation, college reps comment on the high level of interest of both our students and parents. They really comment on the well-thought-out and engaging questions that students ask, commenting on how well-prepared students are for gathering the information they need. The turnout, they comment on the great turnout at Westfield. They comment, and this has to be a shout-out to the PTSO, to the great food, and they all promise to return. This year also, we have had 111 college reps come to Westfield High School for information sessions with our students. 1,157 students attended those sessions. Some of them went to more than one, but prior to meeting with those students, the counselor meets with that rep first. And in that conversation, they learn about what's new on campus. They learn about development on campus. They learn about colleges are always coming up with new majors, new ideas that reflect, we hope, the job market out there someday and reflect student interests. And we also, in that, forge a relationship with that college rep so that when we need to call that school, we say, may I please speak to so-and-so. We continue to sponsor a financial aid night, which we know is becoming increasingly important to parents. One of the presentations that I went to at the national conference was college, more bang for your buck, with increasing understanding that college is expensive and that sometimes the price tag precedes the choice, and that is a reality. We provide on-site, we have a college board, we have a special services coordinator, Jan Fine serves in that, where we actually help kids process their requests for those students who need accommodations because of disabilities, and arrange for that special testing in our own school, an accommodation that many schools will not do, for kids who need 100% extended time, for students who need a reader, for students who have all kinds of needs and accommodations that we take the time to provide. We also had a really enjoyable opportunity in the college world to partner with the PTSO in an evening with Jock Steinberg. I know that some of you were there. It was wonderful. He's a wonderful presenter. It was especially wonderful to have dinner with him and to share some of our understandings and to feel very validated by his assessment of how we deal with students. Last year, I told you that we were going to do our very best to use technology in all ways possible, and we've done that with Genesis. I never knew when Genesis was first presented what it could do for us. It's a wonderful scheduling program. I mean, Marius Vendis and I are really learning all kinds of things and anticipating and playing with it. I don't mean that in a bad way. But really understanding that not only is it a tool for scheduling, but it's a tool for data collection. It's amazing the amount of information that you can gather quickly through user reports that can save you time, time and valuable time. This year, because of Genesis and because of Sandy, another example, our end of the first semester was later than usual. So we were not alone in having a later time frame for getting mid-year grades to schools. It was a concern at first, but then we realized it wasn't a concern because so many schools shared it. But Genesis, in a simple user report, enabled me and Mary to find out what grades were incomplete, what students need to have grade adjusted because of a missing exam, so that we were able, this marking period ended on a report cards went out on Friday, and we were able to send mid-year reports electronically by Monday afternoon. That's really amazing. And we owe that to both Naviance and to Genesis. I want to be sure that in speaking to you, I don't lead you to believe, and I know you know this, that all we do is college. We do it, and we do it well, and we do it fully to the best of our capacity with full enthusiasm. But a school counselor also has a strong commitment to the other part of kids. to the personal and social counseling, and to the personal, social, and emotional well-being of those students that we meet every day. So a good part of our time and a good part of our focus is in meeting those needs. At the high school, we do extensive individual counseling, extensive group counseling. We have the benefit of the continued partnership with NYU that has provided a school anxiety program for some students, but more importantly, has provided school anxiety group training for counselors. This is our final year, and part of the promise from them is that next year every counselor will be trained in that program. My hope is to wrangle that same thing for the middle school counselors. We know that we have all of our counselors throughout the district and at the high school serve as anti-bullying specialists, school safety committee chair people. We have, at the high school and at the middle school, we all are case managers for INRS plans, for 504 plans. We currently, at the high school, have 54 active INRS plans and 49 504 plans. They require a good deal of effort. We like that process because it enables us to work collaboratively, to really sit around a table with teachers who have to implement accommodations, with administrators who understand the other aspects of what is happening to a student, with a school nurse, and frequently with outside resources who come and educate us about all kinds of things. We also have made a commitment to our own professional development. This year, we are attending conferences. Some of them cost a little money, some of them are free. But in an effort to make professional development accessible and easy, we have been able, through all of the relationships we've developed with outside resources, to invite people to come to our department meetings for in-service. We have had speakers on concussion syndrome. We had an excellent speaker a couple of weeks ago on school refusal. She was outstanding. We've had people talk to us about eating disorders and to guide us and advise us in best practices and interventions so that we're better able to meet the needs of students. We also have initiated, we have, as one of our professional development in-service Friday meetings, we have a college interviewer coming in. Actually, it's a Harvard college interviewer coming in to talk to us about the interview, what an interviewer is looking for, how we can better prepare our students for the college interview so that they can shine. I think that'll be an interesting and informative one for us. We've also started, because I do believe that we all need to be responsible for our own professional growth, a bi-weekly professional development segment of a bi-monthly section where each counselor takes turns facilitating a discussion around a research article or a case study, so that counselors are forever continuing to research, learn, grow, and share that information with other staff members. And that expectation is there for all of us, whether you're a 25-year veteran, like I am, or a first or second year counselor fresh out of school who wants to stay fresh and share that knowledge. I think we also, an interesting development, I've been enjoying participating in the Director of Guidance meetings with guidance supervisors and directors from throughout the county. We hosted one actually last month. It's interesting because the agenda items are always meaningful and relevant, but one of the things that's so enjoyable for me is that it's the easiest way to answer the question, what do other schools do? You can throw any question out there, and in an email, you will get 12 or 15 or 18 responses. And it's, again, a good use of time, technology, and very, very valuable information. And finally, I would be remiss in this particular year if I forgot to talk about the essential roles that counselors play in crisis management. We all know that this has been a difficult year for schools, but certainly for counselors K through 12. Counselors work diligently with staff and administrators and parents to provide support and resources during the long days of Sandy and the devastation that we all experienced from Sandy Hook and Newtown. At the high school, we lost 2 students. The student losses were very different, but very deep in very different ways. We could not have functioned without a crisis plan that we have in place. We could not have functioned without understanding who we needed to call for what. I could not have survived the media without Lori Korecki. We have a plan in place. It tells us what we need to do internally, and it connects us quickly and easily to whatever external resources we need to get us through whatever comes our way. There's a lot ahead for us. It's fun and enjoyable and exciting to think about what one can do with found time and found money. It's amazing how much postage we have saved. It's amazing how much print costs we can save. And we think ahead about what we might do with that. I think, as I learned just recently, that we processed 160 graduate transcript requests. The question that I ask is why? Why? Why are they transferring? Naviance has a wonderful component that's called Alumni Tracker that allows you to see where your alumni go, where they finish, what they major in, what careers they end up in. As someone who is part of a department that's committed to preparing students for their future, that seems to me really important information that can really help us do our job better. It's better than postage and envelopes and printing. We're looking forward to that. We're also looking forward to continued professional development and continued understanding of what the needs are of students today. Not students yesterday, but students today. I'm very proud of the counselors throughout the district, as individuals and as a group. I hope that you are too. I thank you for all the ways that you support us and for allowing me to be here tonight. Thank you. And I welcome questions. Thank you.
Well, first, just want to commend you. We've always had an excellent guidance department throughout our schools, but I honestly feel in the last 12 to 18 months under your leadership, there have been major, significant changes in all aspects, and this was a very, very tough year with so many different things. And we talk about how important technology is, and we discuss that, but the real state of the art are the personnel that you have, and I just really,
Thank you.
just a fantastic presentation, and I'm really excited. And
Thank
I
you.
I would also suggest, though, to you that University of Hawaii might be a good vacation for your husband, so you can look at the school and something for everybody.
If that conference comes around,
Yeah.
I'll remember to do that. Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? Ginny?
Nice to see you here again,
You
Maureen.
too, Jenny.
Last year,
Mm-hmm.
you made a couple of goals, comments. One was to improve parent connection and conversation. So what can you say about that?
A couple of things. We have really attempted to take full advantage of people's times, people's limited time, in a way that allows us to get word out to parents when they can get to it. We've really taken full advantage of email. Genesis has been wonderful about that. We are sending letters home through email, blasts out. We're also spent a lot of time, we really are looking very hard at our parent nights and how they're structured and whether or not they achieve the goal. And if not, why not? One thing we've done this year, we are restructuring the junior conference in a way that tries to engage the parents first in smaller groups, with much more opportunity for individual questions rather than a large group presentation. We're trying to communicate better with parents at the individual junior conference by taking out all of the mechanics that we used to do in that presentation. You know, not spending our time on this is Naviance, this is the SCAT, you know, and doing that with students in group presentations, in group workshops, and classroom visits in the weeks prior to that, so that when we sit with those parents and that student in that junior conference, it's all about them. It's not about how to request a transcript. It's about you, your child, and your family. What do you want to get from us out of this conference? I'm encouraging, and we are, quick turnarounds on emails, always encouraging staff that when it's possible, follow the email with a personal phone conversation, because I think you'll learn a whole lot more and you answer questions more efficiently. That's just some of the ways.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for the update.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you very
you.
much.
Thank you.
It's wonderful.
And we have a second superintendent report, and this one, we've been working on the budget for quite a while now. We've had a number of different presentations. The Finance Committee has been working on it. Am I turning this over to you now or to Ms. Sullivan?
I think Dana.
All right, so Dana Sullivan is going to be presenting our budget for this evening.
Turn.
Sure.
Oh, twice?
Good evening. Just need to wait for the projector to warm up.
There's hope.
It's a soft close.
Okay, so the highlights of the 2013-14 budget. We are actually below the state's adjusted cap levy. The cap is 2%, but the state actually allows you to adjust that 2% for certain costs that increase beyond a 2% amount, and that is, one of those costs is health insurance. They also let you increase your budget if you had not reached cap in prior years. And in 2010-11, I believe, or 11-12, you were below cap. So we actually could have increased our budget another $479,000. But we are not. We are now at the 2% increase. This budget continues our funding for the literacy initiative, K-12. It also continues funding for our technology initiative. It continues all of our funding for the STEM program in the district, and continues funding for all mandated programs such as special ed, ELL, and other special programs. We are happy that we've been able to maintain all of our curricular and co-curricular programs. We're able to maintain our existing class size district-wide. We have provided for enrollment increases at the intermediate level, and I'll give you some details of that in a few slides coming up. We will continue to provide funding for maintenance of our facilities. It's an initiative that was started a couple years ago, and we're going to continue that in next year's budget, and increase support for our counseling services. As we knew we were going to get, state aid information was released on February 28th. And as you all know, and has been in the paper, we did receive $1 more. You can see the breakout of what they term as basic state aid, and that's our transportation aid, our special ed aid, and our security aid. So we did receive different amounts in each one of those categories, and they total up to $1 more than what we did get last year. The extraordinary special ed aid is estimated at $1 million. We are submitting an application for that for the 12-13 year now, and we won't actually know what we're going to receive for 12-13 until the end of this fiscal year, so probably May or June. Usually it's June. We expect to receive more than $1 million, but conservatively we budget $1 million in case the state doesn't fund that fully, which has happened in the past.
And Dana, just to explain a little bit, that aid actually is based on money that we've spent this year in special education that's extraordinary, high
Correct.
costs to provide required services. So it will be reimbursing us for money we're already spending.
Yes, correct. Our tax rate increases. As I mentioned, our 2013-14 budget is reflecting a 2% increase in the tax levy. That's without our debt service. Over the past number of years, that increase has been substantially more than that in some years, as high as almost 9% in the early 2000s, 2002, 2003. Then we did hover around 4 to 5% for many years. That was actually the cap for many years. And for the last several years, we have been at the 2% increase. And the reason for many of those tax increases that you see is because state aid has been decreasing, and the percentage of the budget that has been supported by state aid has been continually decreasing. Back in the late 80s, a little more than 11% of our budget was supported by state aid. We are now down to less than 4% of our budget. You can see back in 2010, the year that we had to make many reductions, we were less than 1.5% of our budget was supported by state aid. So the changes from the 12-13-14 budget, I mentioned earlier that we're anticipating some enrollment increases at the intermediate level. Those increases will mostly be at Edison School. To support those enrollment numbers, we've increased a custodian for 10th time. We've added 4.4 teachers, and we've added a resource room teacher. At the high school, we are expanding our Mandarin program, so that's an increase from a 4/10 of a teacher to a 6/10 time for a teacher. We do see some enrollment decreases at the first grade level, so we think we have 2 positions there that we may be able to reduce out of next year's budget. And in our continuing effort to control some of our costs for students with special needs that go to out-of-district programs, we are creating 2 additional classes in district. So we hope to retain some kids in district that might have had to go out in order to meet their needs, and maybe even bring back some kids that are currently in out-of-district placements. So we think we can add these new teachers and paraprofessionals without increasing the budget, because the offset in tuition expenses should cover that cost. Since 2 weeks ago, we presented a preliminary budget. We've been working continually on that budget, and meeting the Finance Committee has met several times in the last 2 weeks. So we have made some changes to the draft that was presented 2 weeks ago. We are adding $50,000 to the budget for a school resource officer. We anticipate that this will cover about half of the cost of salary and benefit for a police officer, who will mostly be stationed at the high school but will work district-wide with kids. We are continuing conversations with the town. In fact, we have a meeting at the end of this week. So we're hoping that they will share the cost with us, and that it'll be a benefit to both the town and the school district. We are going to look at restructuring our guidance services at the high school, and possibly adding a position there in order to provide extra support. So we've added $77,000 for that. In the area of athletics, we had a lot of discussion about athletics, and decided to add $17,000 to the budget for athletics. We are going to fund 2 hockey coaches that are currently funded by the parents. The district feels that they should be funded by us, because we feel they're needed for safety issues for our kids, to provide safety for our kids. We are also adding a freshman volleyball coach for girls, and that is the only team that currently has enough kids to field a freshman team but doesn't have a freshman team. So for equity purposes, we're adding a coach there. We're increasing the time for our assistant trainer. A small increase in time, so that's going to cost about $8,000. And from other areas of the budget, the athletic budget, we think we can reduce $10,000. So the overall increase in athletics will be about $17,000. The next item is also something we've talked a lot about over the weekend. Several years ago, for a number of years, the state was funding grants for school facilities projects. And the district received a number of grants, one of them for the high school renovation, and there were a couple other projects that you received grant money from the state. Last year, the state decided to start charging a portion of the principal and interest costs for the bonds that they had to issue to pay for those grants back to the district. They started, I believe it was in the low 30s last year, they charged. This year's budget had increased to $48,000, and next year's budget had increased to $75,000. We don't have any details at all as to how the state calculates that amount. We have asked for it. New Jersey School Boards Association has asked for it. New Jersey Association of School Business Officials has asked the state for it. So we're hoping to get something, at least so as we budget for next year and the years beyond, we can know whether we have to keep increasing this as much as it's been going up, or at least have some idea, and also to verify that their numbers are correct. We have been able to add all of those items into the budget without increasing the budget, because we've made reductions in various salary accounts. And that is because in the last 2 to 3 weeks, we received about 9 notifications of retirements. So from those retirements, we think we can have significant savings from hiring teachers that are lower on the salary scale. So we were able to reduce salary accounts for existing accounts and increase these other areas without impacting the budget and without cutting programs. So we're happy about that. Just a note on some efficiencies and shared services that we have been able to see in the district and will continue to see in the district. Our per pupil spending continues to be below the state average and below what other districts similar to us spend, and I have a slide coming up to show that. As I mentioned, we will continue to create programs for special needs students in district that will enable us to spend less money, since transportation and tuition tend to be rather costly for students that go out of the district. Our energy conservation programs have now netted us over $2 million in savings, and we continue to look for more savings in that area. We purchase many of our supplies through cooperatives with Union and Morris counties, and the buying power of joining with many school districts enables us to save a lot of money on those areas in those purchases. We will continue our shared services with the town for equipment, field scheduling, and maintenance. Our busing, some of our busing is done cooperatively, also mostly in the area of special ed as well. Our out-of-district students are all transported in consortiums with other school districts so that we can save money on the cost of transporting kids to the schools. And we cooperatively purchase for electricity and natural gas with a consortium of other school districts as well. So our cost per pupil, this calculation is done by the state, the New Jersey Department of Education, and they use audited data from school districts that are transmitted directly from the school district auditors, so that this information is not even transmitted from schools. Westfield's cost per pupil for the 10-11 year, which is the most recent audited data that the state has for all districts, is $11,666. The state average for K-12 districts that have more than 3,500 students is $13,290, so we're significantly below the state average. And there's a number of other districts here that are comparable, either in their makeup of the school or in proximity to us, that you can see spend a significant amount more per pupil than Westfield does. And what we're really proud to talk about is the success stories of how well the district has done, even with being a low-spending district. 4 of our high school seniors have been named National Merit finalists. 19 of our students at the high school scored perfect 800s on the SAT or essay subject tests this year. Top awards were given to science and Olympiad teams from both the intermediate schools and the high school. The High School Model UN Club earned the Premier Delegation Award at their conference that they recently attended. One of our 5th graders, Invention, won first place in the Smithsonian International Competition. Our athletic teams continue to thrive. We've had many state and county championships, too numerous to actually list on this slide. And 18 of our high school students and 13 of our middle school students were accepted into the 2013 Central Jersey Music Educators Association Region 2 ensembles, or All Eastern Choir, or the orchestra. And this is just some pictures of some of the kids that earned these high honors. And of course, there's many more. This is just one slide. There's many more we could point out of honors that have been given to our students. The process for the budget, tonight, of course, is March 5th. The board will be adopting a tentative budget that has to be submitted to the county office by Thursday of this week. The county office will then approve our budget for advertising. The budget will be advertised in the March 14th paper, along with the notice of the public hearing, which we already talked about will be held on March 21st. And the board will also have a regular board meeting on March 19th where you can discuss the budget. And then the final budget will be adopted after the public hearing on March 21st. So that concludes our budget presentation for tonight. If there's any questions from the board, I'd be happy to answer them.
Good presentation. Thank you.
Excellent. I just want to add one point, which I think is important to just clarify, which is, I think, really, it just seems like a small line item, but it's very critical. that we are increasing time for an assistant trainer. And essentially what that means is that gives us the opportunity when there's multiple sporting events going on to have a trainer at another, I don't know if Sandy is here, but another meeting at another event to evaluate if there's a concussion, if there's something else going on. It's something really critical, and this was something that we felt very strongly that, we'd love to be able to do even more, but being able to increase that time, I think, is important.
No, maybe you want to do the motion.
Oh, sure. Questions on the budget topic?
Hi, Gary McCready, 39 Mohican. I'm not sure if it's more appropriate for the curriculum or budget, but can't have curriculum without a budget, so I'll ask it here. There is a new science course called Forensics, and in the budget presentation that you can have continuing funding for STEM initiatives, and I'm wondering, since I've heard that course has a great turnout in terms of selection by students for it at the high school, I wonder if there is enough enough money in the budget to support enough sections for all the students who are looking to sign up for it, or would money be able to be moved around for that?
I had heard that the numbers were healthy, that there are a lot of people who have signed up, but I don't know that we have final numbers yet. So I would imagine the high school will be coming to me and we'll be looking for that. I think we'll be able to support it, though.
Okay, because again, I just think that'd be a great extension of the STEM initiative, because for students to really get excited and somebody to sign up for a new class, it would be really a great way to show them that you value their selections by funding all comers. So, thanks.
We had that discussion in SIP, actually, and since the class will be, they're making the assumption that the kids who are selecting forensics will then not be taking environmental science, that there will be an even sort of switching or shifting. So at the time when we met in SIP, there was no recommendation for new staff or new materials because they felt that it would balance itself out.
Okay, thanks a lot, and you should really put the guidance presentation on the website, because it's a great example of the value add that Westfield provides, so thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else on the budget, on the board or in the audience? Thank you, Dan. Anything else from the superintendent?
No, not at this point.
All right. Then I would ask the board to approve the minutes of the board meeting held on February 19th, 2013, special board meeting held on February 26th, 2013, and the private minutes of February 19, 2013, and February 26, 2013. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or conversation about the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And I will abstain from the 26th, only because I wasn't present. That brings us to personnel. Mark?
Okay, I'd like the board to consider motions 1 through 3 and 5 through 18. Second, Ginny. Peg, would you like to talk about retirements? please?
Retirements, certainly. We actually have 4 retirements on the agenda for tonight, and 2 of them are married to each other. So, Larry Cole and Marie Cole are a married couple who have been lunch aides together at McKinley for the last 4.5 years. They have thoroughly enjoyed their daily contact with McKinley students and are now looking forward to their retirement together. Debbie Stern has been a Franklin librarian for the last 20 years. She has encouraged students to read for information and for pleasure, and has provided meaningful lessons on research skills and internet safety. Debbie, here's a claim to fame. Debbie has dressed as Cat in the Hat every year on Read Across America Day and has devised annual reading incentive programs that encourage students to love reading as much as she does. Debbie's an excellent trainer of parent volunteers and will be missed by all of the Franklin community. And our 4th retirement is Linda Ulinay. She has taught French and English language learners to Westfield students throughout the district for the last 25 years. Linda has vast experience working with students from various linguistic and cultural backgrounds and is well known for being adaptable to meet the many needs of students who are new to our country. She takes an active interest in the families of her students and frequently helps the parents of her students as they acclimate to an English-speaking culture. She and her fellow ELL teachers have enjoyed creating potluck suppers and cultural events for the students and their families. And Linda is excited about being able to spend more time with her family and especially her granddaughter.
Any other questions on personnel?
Rich Matesic,
Yes.
Mark Friedman,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Roseanne Kursted,
Yes.
Ginny Lights,
Yes.
Gretchen Olug,
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
Is there anything else under personnel? Okay.
Facilities?
That brings us to facilities. So we.
We return and turn to Dana Sullivan again.
Yes.
Okay, so for facilities 2013-14. As you know, we have a maintenance reserve account that the board established several years ago. The balance at June 30th, 2012 was $2,198,852. Over the summer last year, you had projects that totaled $330,691. So our current balance is approximately $1.8 million. We have a number of projects planned for the summer coming up. With your approval tonight, we will move forward with. And their estimated cost is $1,260,000. And we'll go through details on the slides following. And then the balance, projected balance after the summer will be $607,000. As we close out the fiscal year 2012-2013, the board, I assume, will decide to make a deposit into this account, but that number will be known as we get closer to the end of this school year and know how much we're generating in fund balance this year. Projects that were completed last year. You upgraded your computer network at a cost of $600,000. You replaced windows and doors at Edison Intermediate School. You did bathroom renovations at Edison Intermediate School. You replaced boilers at both McKinley and Franklin schools. And you upgraded your windows, did some window repairs at Edison. Some projects that were just completed this past year in the summer, upgrades to the high school HVAC systems. The bleachers at Roosevelt were replaced last year. Stage rigging at the high school was fully replaced this past summer. We did some masonry restoration on this building as well as at Tamaqua School. We replaced the floor at one of the gyms at the high school. We redid the high school lot and Edison lot, and we also resealed the Tamaqua playground. The projects that we're proposing for 2013-14, and just before I start in on each school, the amounts that you see here are estimates. We will have to go out to bid on most of these projects. Some of the smaller projects we may actually do through our cooperative purchasing, depending on which way we can get a cheaper price. As we start awarding contracts for these projects, we will come back to you for approval to transfer the money out of the maintenance reserve. So tonight, we're just asking for mostly a okay to proceed with the projects. A couple of them we're actually asking for approval tonight because of time constraints that we have in order to get it done this summer. But the others you'll see as we start awarding contracts, they'll be on future agendas. So at the high school, we are going to continue our locker replacement. That started already, but we're going to continue to take out old lockers and replace them with new double lockers, which will provide additional space for additional kids. We're going to do some renovations to the main office for replacing the ceiling and some lighting in the main office at the high school. At Edison School, we are going to replace 2 boilers. You'll see we did 2 schools last year. In the next couple of years, you're going to see some more boiler replacements because our boilers are all very old and we need to replace them before we start having a problem with them. We were gonna replace gym bleachers at Edison. We are replacing classroom ceiling tiles, in Edison, and we're gonna start replacing ceiling tiles. So this will allow us to do about 10 to 15 classrooms at Edison. And we are gonna make some upgrades to the HVAC system. At Roosevelt School, we're proposing to refinish wood floors in, I believe that was 10 classrooms. And we are gonna replace carpeting in two of the large computer rooms at that school. At Franklin School, we're going to be replacing floors. This will allow us to replace about 4 floors this summer, 4 to 5, depending on the bids. And we'll continue over the next several years to replace a number of rooms in Franklin. There's a first grade wing there that is quite old, so we're going to do some upgrades to the plumbing and replace faucets and countertops in those classrooms. And we're going to replace some ceilings in some of the hallways with drop ceilings. Jefferson, we are also going to start replacing some floors. And again, this is about 4 to 5 floors, depending on what our actual bids come in. This next project is a project you've seen before. We had hoped to get this done last year, and for several reasons, one of which was the storm. This did not get done in the fall. The only time that we can actually do this project is in the fall, because we can't take this field out of service for very long. So this October, we hope to get this Jefferson Field replaced. The town is actually taking the lead on this project because they received a grant from the county for this, and then they are also going to split the remaining cost with us. So hopefully we'll get that done this fall. At McKinley, we are again going to replace some hallway ceilings with some drop ceilings, and we have gym doors in there that can't shut properly, don't shut properly, and don't lock, that we're going to replace this summer. And Washington School, we are going to continue replacing pneumatic controls for the HVAC system, and that should actually complete that project that's been phased in over a number of years. At Wilson, we also have floor tiles that need replacing, so we will start that process. And the front steps have repairs that need to be done. And then district-wide, we've reserved $30,000 for repairing sidewalks and masonry work that we need to do, as needed. Our long-term projects that we're looking at is we have some classroom renovations that we're looking at doing in some schools next year, maybe the year after, depending on our enrollment projections and our needs. As I mentioned, we're going to continue to replace boilers and replace our HVAC systems because our buildings are so old. Regulating the heat continues to be an issue, so that's why we need to have the HVAC replacements. We will continue the locker replacement at the high school over the next several years. We have STEM labs at the middle schools that we're looking at possibly upgrading in the next few years. We will continue our floor and ceiling tile replacements that we are beginning this year. We have several schools that have very old auditorium seats that we can no longer buy parts for and replace. So we're looking at our options on whether we can purchase parts of the auditorium and replace parts of the auditorium and use those old seats to repair the other seats, or if we should replace the entire auditorium worth of seats. So we're looking at several options there on how we can fix those and maintain those without spending a lot of money. And we're looking at various athletic facilities for upgrades over the next several years. And that concludes this presentation. Do you have any questions on the facilities projects that we have planned?
Excellent illustrations.
Yeah.
Those were fun.
I was having fun with that.
I can tell.
Thank you, that was a good overview. I know the Facilities Committee spent a lot of time on the 5-year plan, looking at what we could push out to future years, what we had to be done immediately. And, you know, when we conclude that a boiler needs to be replaced, for example, it's not because it's nearing end of life, it's because it's at end of life. And, you know, the facilities people do a great job keeping things together, but we're at the point where we really just need to start biting off some of the bigger projects. And I think we're doing a good job sort of spacing that out and just make sure we get it done. If there are no comments or questions, I will, yes, you.
But I just wanted to add, while we're talking about facilities, we did note last meeting, I believe, that we were out to bid on the 3 roof projects, the high school, Washington, and Roosevelt. Tomorrow, we do have a pre-bidders meeting, and we have quite a number of bidders interested, which is great.
Good.
And March 26th, we'll be opening bids.
In terms of approving the projects, you want to do that under finance?
Yes.
Okay. And that's it, that's all I have. Could we jump to curriculum instruction and program, just in deference to some of the people in the audience?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Okay. I am going to go a little out of sequence because we do have 2 teachers here who have already had a long day, and we so appreciate that they are here to share with us 2 new curriculum that are on our agendas. One that Mr. McGreedy alluded to is forensics, and the other is exercise science and sports studies. These 2 courses have been added, or are being proposed to be added, assuming board approval, to the high school course offerings. As of now, the science elective choices for students is somewhat limited. There is environmental science, and it was the feeling of the science department in the high school that students have an interest in science, but we were possibly not providing them with a wide enough array of choices and expanding their understanding of what science could be in the real world, let's just say. Dr. Dolan, do I have to move the curriculum first, or can they just speak of them? Do you know?
You should move it to the table.
Okay. I would like to ask the board for approval of first reading for 2 new science curricula, forensics and exercise science and sports studies.
Second.
Thank you, Mitch. And now I would like to open it up for discussion. Is there any comments from the board? Okay, then I would like to welcome, let's start with forensics. I would like to welcome Carol Wenk and Dr. Stoneback to please tell us about this exciting new course.
Good evening. Glad to be here. Thank you for inviting us. We're kind of excited about being able to ask for approval. As a matter of fact, students are signing up as we speak. But for 2 new courses, forensic science and sports exercise and sports science. Did I get it right?
Yeah.
Okay, exercise and sports science. We moved the title around a few times. Carol's up here to talk about forensic science, but I think it's important to know that through the years, the department has struggled with having enough electives for students, especially when they've taken the biochemistry. Some want to avoid physics, some take the physics. We have very high physics enrollment. A lot get to a point where they've had many of our science courses, and they want or need another elective. And at that point, we really didn't have anything. So we, this year, have written really 5 new curricula. We presented 2, we didn't want to get greedy. And we also didn't know what it would do to enrollments in these courses and other courses where the that are feeding the enrollment for these courses. And we really need a better handle on that so that we know, for instance, that the gain in one course really comes from people not signing up for another, and does not mean we need new staffing every time you get a classroom. So, but we'll be back with some of those. But tonight we're here because we've gone down the route, and it's been very informative and interesting. And the first one is forensic science, and I'll let Carol tell you about what we were thinking about that. We have taught a forensics unit in several of our biology classes, but it was just a unit. And I had nothing to do with Mr. McCready coming up here. Saying that, but his daughter has signed up already. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Carol, and tell them about the history.
Hello, I'm Carol Wank, and I'm one of the chemistry and physics teachers at the high school. And we are really excited with the possibility of offering these two new courses to our students. The Westfield School District does a fantastic job of providing our students with an excellent science foundation, but our non-AP course offerings have been limited. And sometimes we call these courses electives, but I want to make it clear that both of these courses meet the requirements that a student would need for one of their 3 required classes to graduate from high school. We call them electives because not every student would choose to take these courses. And some of the things I'm going to say really apply to both courses, but I'm primarily speaking about the forensics because I'm one of the co-authors of that curriculum document along with Dr. Dana Phillips, one of our biology teachers. So some of the good things about the forensics class is that you might be aware that the state of New Jersey is currently revising our science standards, and we're moving to something called the next gen or next generation science standards. And supposedly these standards are going to be effective next school year, so we'll see if that really happens. But if you read through the drafts for these science standards, they definitely emphasize applied problem solving, developing critical thinking skills, and having students participate in authentic assessments. And these 2 courses definitely meet all of those requirements. Students will be taking that science foundation and applying it to real-world scenarios. And, with the forensics, obviously there's some popularity with that course because of some of the TV shows that exist. And students will realize that things don't always go smoothly as a TV show. We're not going to get lab results in 2 minutes, and we're not going to solve the whole crime in an hour at times. It can be a more tedious process than that. The forensics class is very much an interdisciplinary course, and I say that in 2 ways. One way is just in the science world. It will incorporate aspects of biology, chemistry, physics, earth science into this course, and that's why we had the 2 co-authors working on the document together, because we wanted to bring all of our backgrounds into the curriculum document. But this course is also interdisciplinary in other areas. With the new language arts and math standards that we have, they both incorporate math and language arts into science classes. And so these courses would very much do that, in addition to bringing in things like law. These courses will also give students an idea of different career paths that they could take. Again, sometimes in our basic courses, students don't really understand what they would do in the real world if they were going to major in science. And so there are definitely very concrete career paths that they would see. Another benefit to this course is that any teacher in our science department could teach the course because of the interdisciplinary nature. And, again, there is a lot of enthusiasm by the students when they heard that we might be offering new courses. I know I polled my own students, and something like, 1/4 of my students said that they would have liked the opportunity to take this course at some point during their high school career. The curriculum, when you read the document, you'll see that it mainly is divided into two pieces. And one piece is where students will develop their observational and investigative skills, so kind of just basic good science skills. And then the second part of the curriculum talks about different laboratory techniques that they would learn, so very specific techniques in the different sciences. Our original idea for this course came about obviously because we thought that there was a need, but I had attended a presentation at the New Jersey Science Convention. I don't think it was this year, I think it was the year before, and it just really made me very excited about the possibility of offering this course at the high school. And since then, I've done more reading up on the class, and when I took the seminar at the Science Convention, we got to participate in different laboratory activities and got to see, again, how we can apply our basic science techniques to real-world scenarios. Also, these courses, or especially the forensics course, is, I don't know if I want to say it's a common class, but it is a course that is offered at many of the other high schools in the area. And so we did feel like we were behind a little bit because we didn't have some of those additional offerings. So that's just kind of my general sales pitch about the course, and I didn't know if you had any questions that I could answer at this time. Okay, then I will turn it over to Chris Tefelsky.
Don't rob me from the microphone. You know I love the microphone. I just wanted to add a couple of things. One is all science courses are electives. So sometimes we throw that around. They're all electives, except possibly for biology, which is now mandated. You must take it and you must pass a test. I'm not sure you have to take it to pass the test, whether you could just bypass the course and take the test. But it is certainly state mandated. We expect that they'll do the same thing with chemistry. But these two courses are 6 credit. They have a double period lab, both of them, which I think is important if you're going to take the time to do some serious laboratory work. You can't do it in a single 43-minute period. The Dana Phillips, Dr. Phillips, would have been here. She was very sick today, and Carol and I both encouraged her, come if you must, but if we will understand if you don't. But it's good to have 2 different viewpoints. Dr. Phillips, a biological scientist, and Carol is a chemical engineer. So together they have written this course and gone over it in our various presentations. And so I want to thank her for her work, even though she's not here. The next course that we want to talk about, Exercise in Sports Science, came to us from the person who wrote it, from the person who promoted it, from the person sitting here. And he came into my office a couple of years ago and he said, we should teach an exercise in sports science course. I said, okay, Chris. So anyway, when we decided we should be writing some curricula for the sciences, that was certainly one of the top ones we thought about. And there's nothing that promotes success for students in a course that's better than enthusiasm of the instructor. Someone who loves the subject, someone who lives the subject as a coach. So, Chris, thank you for being here.
Okay, hello again. First, Hurricane Sandy's been blamed for a lot of things, but if there's one thing that came out of Hurricane Sandy is it gave me the time to write this. Because finally, when the email came down in August of, let's write some new courses. Okay, let's do that. When is that going to happen? It was once the seasons begin and the school year begin. You don't really have the big blocks of time to take care of something like this. So, sometimes you can make some lemonade. So, first, as Carol mentioned, we really are interested in meeting the students where they are as far as where their interests lie. And with the number of kids that are involved in our athletic programs, with the impact that sports have on popular culture, with the things that you hear about all the time about human health. This is bad for you. This is good for you. What's what? It's hard to make sense of a lot of those things. There's a lot of intersection here, and it also gives our students more options as far as what courses are available to them, which is a need that we have certainly seen in our students for some time. And as a biology teacher, I've taught biology, chemistry, I've taught physics as well. But Biology 1 is a course that is primarily taken by our 9th and 10th graders, and one of the most frustrating things about teaching it is that the breadth of the course is just tremendous, and you're always finding things that just have to go in the interest of time. Even more so now that a state test, which is called an end-of-course test but is given in May, is an added challenge for us as far as picking and choosing what can stay and what can go. And so a lot of times that makes it difficult to meet the students where they are in terms of their interest, because we have to move on to the next thing, unfortunately. And so in conversations with some students of mine and some athletes of mine, this is definitely an area of interest, and it's also an area where kids who ordinarily have such a narrow view of what scientists are, give them some exposure to some of the careers that are out there that are scientific, that rely on scientific understanding, but they don't necessarily think of them as scientific. So things like physical and occupational therapy, personal training, of course medicine, athletic training, coaching, physical education, all of these things are rooted in the basic understanding of how the body gets around and why it gets better at what it does with repeated exercise, how the health of the person improves with repeated exercise. And so that's really the foundation, is that we have the interest and we have the careers. As Dave noted, this isn't something that's offered anywhere else to my knowledge. There are some schools that offer an exercise physiology course, but that's really just a component of what this is. If you look through the content scope and sequence, you'll see that this is in part a kinesiology course, which is more anatomy and physics, and then more of the exercise physiology and the biochemistry of what's going on at the molecular level, the cellular level, as far as health impact and as far as performance gains. So there are a lot of different elements to this that in a college major, each would be its own course. So this would kind of serve as a survey course for someone who would be interested in pursuing one of these career fields. Oh, what questions?
Will there be a 5K run at this?
I can start recruiting some cross-country runners, yeah. But it would be a nice thing also, I've been in communication with some of the members of the PE department about spending some lab periods in the fitness center. We have a lot of the equipment that we would anticipate using are things that we already have. We have EKG probes that connect to laptop computers and things like that, where we can get a kid on a treadmill with an EKG on and see what's going on. And there are a lot of exciting things that we could do there, and having the lab period, of course, would be essential for that.
It's a revenue producer. Put them on there, charge them for EKG.
We'll do stress tests. Let's do
Yeah.
stress tests.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Really
Very, very much.
Exciting.
So it's moved?
What?
Yes.
It is moved, yes. SIP really had a wonderful time meeting with you and really understanding your excitement and your depth and breadth of knowledge, not only in the scientific fields, but in meeting the needs of our students, and it was really exciting. So, and also thank you so much for coming tonight, because I know it's late. Yeah. So, I would,
One of the best curriculum meetings in quite a while.
so do you want to vote?
Yes.
Rich Matesic,
Yes.
Mark Friedman,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Roseanne Kerstead,
Yes.
Ginny Lights,
Yes.
Gretchen Olig,
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
Okay, I'd also like to move for first reading 2 social studies courses, African American History and Culture and Advanced Placement Psychology. Can I have a second? Thank you, Ginny. These courses are just revised, not to say that I'm sure when they were new, they didn't have the excitement and not to diss them. But these courses were revised to meet the new Common Core state standards, to be aligned with those, as well as the advanced placement psychology has been aligned to meet the new criteria for the AP exam, while both of the courses have been rejigged a little bit and the essential questions have been tightened a bit, not only to be aligned with the standards I just mentioned, but also to meet the needs of and interests of the students. The content has pretty much remained the same. So, any comments or questions?
Rich Matesic,
Yes.
Mark Friedman,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Roseanne Kirsted,
Yes.
Ginny Lights,
Yes.
Gretchen Olig.
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
And now I'd like to ask the board, I would like to move to ask the board to approve the Westfield High School Youth and Government Club to participate in the Youth and Government Conference at Trenton, New Jersey.
Second.
Thanks. Questions?
My daughter's gone.
Rich Matesic,
Yes.
Mark Friedman,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Roseanne Kirsted,
Yes.
Ginny Lights,
Yes.
Gretchen Olig.
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yep.
And now I would like to ask the board to approve the 2012-2013 ESEA Waiver Progress Target Plans as attached. Thank you, Ginny, for the second. This is a new requirement that our district has to do, and it has to do with what used to be called the No Child Left Behind AYP performance targets. AYP, which was annual yearly progress, has been changed to now annual performance targets. And there is a new accountability matrix that establishes baselines for all schools using test scores from 2011. And based on those baselines, there are then targets that schools need to meet, and then categories of students need to meet as well. And Paul Panera, our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, had to prepare a report along with the principals that detailed the efforts that the principals will be making throughout the district to meet those targets. Many of those actually, because it is our want in this district to continually look at our practice to improve, many, if not all of these things are embedded in what we do every day, and this is just a way of formatting it that meets the requirements for the state. Any questions, comments? Can we vote?
Rich Matesic,
Yes.
Mark Friedman,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Roseanne Kirsted,
Yes.
Ginny Lights,
Yes.
Gretchen Olig.
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
Anything else on SIP?
That is all.
All right, then that brings us back to long-range planning. Jenny?
Although I had thought I would be presenting results from our meeting, at this meeting, I've asked if we could put that off until the next board meeting on March 19th, when we have several fewer reports,
Second.
superintendent reports. I don't need
Oh,
a second.
You just on auto second, is that it? Auto second.
So, at our next meeting, we should have a report of intermediate enrollment plans, and also information about Lincoln School programs that we've been studying in long-range planning.
Great. Thank you. Policies. Gretchen?
Yes, I'd like to ask the board to consider policy motion number 1, affirming the superintendent's decisions on 13E02, 13E03, 13E04, 13E05, 13E06, 13E07, 13R02, 13 WASH WA06, 13 WA07 for the reasons set forth therein. Got a second, Jenny? Thank you.
Yes.
Don't get in her way.
Comments or questions?
Rich Matazik,
Yes.
Mark Friedman,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Roseanne Kirsted,
Yes.
Ginny Lights,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
Anything else on policy?
No, nothing else.
Brings us to finance. Mark?
Okay, I'd like the board to consider motions 1 through 4, then number 5 as amended at your table for a lower costs that were provided to us by the business administrator, and then motions 6 through 8. Can I get a second? Jeannie? Thank you. With respect to motion number 1, which is the approval of the 2013-2014 tentative budget, I have just a statement I want to make, Rich, okay? Sure. For the past few months, Dr. Dolan and her staff have been working on the development of a budget that will allow our district to maintain the high level of education that we have come to be known for in Westfield. Each year, we have to make difficult choices as we cannot fund everything that we would like to do. There are obviously limited resources that we have available. School districts face the same rising costs that we all face in our own homes. The insurance and power and supplies all seem to cost more each year. We have an older infrastructure that needs constant attention, and we want to invest in technology that will benefit our students in the classroom. We want to support athletics and fine arts, and we want to provide quality counseling for 6,300 students. We want to assist in the professional development of our fine teachers. There are very few ways that a school district can raise money. We are awarded state aid. This year, only $1 more than last year. And when you factor in an additional bill we will receive from the state to repay a portion of a grant that was previously awarded to the district, our aid for the new budget will be considerably less than last year. The most significant form of funding comes from you, the good citizens of Westfield. Our residents will fund approximately 92% of this budget. We thank you for your ongoing commitment to our students, teachers, and administrators. You should know that we work hard at making every dollar count. You should know that opinions around this board table vary when it comes to budget and taxes, but we all remain singularly focused on doing more with less. The tax levy, for example, was a topic of great debate in the Finance Committee. What would a budget look like if we asked for no increase in the tax levy? What about 1%? What about 2%? We looked at program cuts to offset a lower tax levy, and we balanced the desire to maintain strong program with the need to keep taxes down. We believe that we're delivering to the board tonight a solid budget, one that will maintain a tradition of excellence in education in Westfield, yet stops far short of asking for everything that we wanted to fund next year, and comes in below the state mandated cap. We continue to look for ways to generate new sources of revenue from outside the district, and we will also continue our drive to become more efficient in our operations so that we can reinvest those savings in the areas that need it most. Thank you again for your support. Any other questions on the finance motions? Comments?
I would just, it was an excellent report, and I would just, as a member of the Finance Committee, certainly echo what Mr. Friedman said. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's sometimes, you want to do everything you can possibly do. We have lists and lists and lists from principals, from supervisors, from athletics, from fine arts, and most importantly from parents that we want to be able to do. And it's quite a task to go through that and to go through this whole process, and at the same time do everything you possibly can do to help the taxpayer. And I think we've worked very, very hard, and we looked at every possible situation, as Mark said, with 0, with 1, and 2. And I think we've come to a really strong conclusion that we want to maintain the excellence, and we really don't want to see things take a step backwards. And I think this budget really helps in moving things forward as well. So just wanted to add that.
Rich Matazik,
Yes.
Mark Friedman,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Roseanne Kirsted,
Yes.
Ginny Lights,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
Anything else for finance?
No, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I would ask the board to note the notes for the record. And then legislation would typically be Ann. I'm not aware of her having asked anyone to prepare a report.
No.
Okay. Any unfinished business? Okay. Any new business? Okay. Any ad hoc committee reports?
Now, the Technology Committee will be meeting this Friday morning, and we will have some updates in the next few weeks once we get through everything else.
That was enlightening.
Hey, I can go on for a half hour if you want, all right? I'm being like Ginny, I'm being responsible, not just going on and on and on. But good.
Anyone else under ad hoc? Any liaison reports?
Oh,
Ginny?
yeah. Okay, quick. Parent-teacher council, PTC general membership meeting, February 21st. Nice conversation about security. Dr. Dolan, Gretchen, and I attended. I think I may not have mentioned to you, Dr. Dolan, there was some interest in the first day packets, including security and access procedures. If for some reason they were changing for the different schools, parents would appreciate knowing any of that information in their first day packets. Perhaps that's a way to focus the information in a centralized way as opposed to coming out in drips and drabs over time. There was a question, would schools be accessible in the summer for the special education children to orient themselves? Generally, I guess that takes place, and
Yes, I did follow up on that, and the answer is yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I think it was more based on securing schools and also roofing work, and that there was uncertainty if there would be barriers or any interventions, but some children need extra time for practice runs in the school that they're going to be going to if they're changing schools or just if they're new to the district. So that was one concern. There were questions about whether or not we would continue to hold school on days when voting would be taking place. Conversation about presidential election, November gubernatorial or legislative elections, and then primary elections in June. And I know Dr. Dolan reiterated her position that she had written to the county clerk to ask if there were other sites that could be made available for voting, or if voting could be restricted to just 2 or 3 locations that would have better, more limited access either to students or to older students, not the younger elementary schools. Let's see. And there was one question about driver's education. Could driver's education be offered the first semester sophomore year or the second semester freshman year? Currently, it's offered only available the second semester sophomore year. And I know that there's a timing issue with the way that the health courses are offered, and the different gym classes use Project Adventure equipment.
Right.
There's a whole scheme about the scheduling of the different classes and the different positions in the school and the different activities and equipment that they use. But apparently the thought was that some of the children in sophomore year are turning 16 earlier than the courses offered to them, and therefore it doesn't benefit them as much as was anticipated. It probably is a small portion of the population, but it was raised as a question.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we'll be able to offer any solution to that, or whether we should, but if there's an opportunity to take a look at different scenarios of a small portion of a class, or whether or not it works, it would benefit them to know that we had looked into that question. I also attended a meeting of the Garden State Coalition of Schools Board of Trustees, and The conversation focused primarily on, the state aid, whether or not state aid would be, and to what extent it would be delivered to schools. The subcontracting bill, which is coming up through the legislation, has to do with drivers, bus drivers, I guess, if there's a district that supplies transportation, or custodial staff must negotiate to privatize within 60 days prior to the end of a contract if a district is interested in privatizing. So that's a change to legislation if it passes. And we should continue to stay aware of it. The major portion of conversation had to do with the testing, Teach New Jersey Act, and the implication of the different student growth profile assessments, that whether or not the lag time of the data being made available by the state as a potential component of teacher evaluation process, and whether or not the Garden State Coalition as a group should strive to influence, actually come up with a position and then influence the Department of Education on a position that would benefit districts that were represented. As you can imagine, the comments were all over the map. And in addition to the teacher evaluation process, then some of the topic turned to the school evaluation, the level of school evaluation, and how data was going to be prepared and delivered, and the lag time. In some cases, especially for teachers, if an evaluation has to be delivered by, let's say for argument, the end of April, and the student data is not delivered from the state until February of the next year, there's a considerable gap in the amount of time, either that the data can contribute in what proportion, whether it's 50% to the teacher's evaluation or as little as 15%, which may become a moot point when PARC testing comes into play in 2015.
It's definitely a time of transition in education.
So,
yes, that's true.
I think that the end of the meeting, although there was initial concern about should we or shouldn't we write a letter, and do we have a position, and can we all get behind a position, at the end of the day the question was, well, maybe everybody has this concern, so maybe it's not just a Garden State Coalition of Schools concern, maybe it's a broader concern, and maybe we should just sit back and let things develop in their own flow.
Okay.
Stay tuned, there's another meeting next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other liaison reports? All right. With that, then, I would again recognize the public for questions and/or comments on any topic. Seeing no one come to the podium, I would ask the board to approve the following resolutions. Resolved that the Westfield Board of Education move into private session for the purpose of discussing matters rendered confidential by state and federal law, personnel, pending or anticipated litigation, and pending or anticipated contract negotiations. And be it further resolved that any discussions held by the board, which need not remain confidential, and the results of the discussion will be made public as soon as practicable. A second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? We are adjourned.